All right. Well, thank you all again for joining us this evening for part two of our new Hudl webinars. I'm joined tonight by Chris Haddad. He works for vIQtory Sports. He's the founder of vIQtory Sports, which helps develop football coaches. He's currently the defensive coordinator and wide receivers coach at Bellingham High in Massachusetts for the last 7+ years. And he's been a big advocate for New Hudl and Hudl in general for us. So we're excited to have him on with us tonight. Before Chris gets started here, I just wanted to show one update that we have currently. Our team is actively working on. I got the okay to show this a little early. It's not active yet, but we're getting very close to having it ready to go. We're excited to show an ad slide, which, yes, that does mean presentations are very close with New Hudl. So you'll be able to see an ad slide button within the near future. You can then upload a PDF or a PowerPoint, just like you do with Classic. At this point, we don't have the Play Tools portion in there, but this is hidden behind some things on the back end. So none of you coaches can see it right now, but it is something that we're excited to be developing and getting ready to go here in the near future. So wanted to be able to show that I know last time that was one of the big questions was ad slides, when our presentations coming over, all of that stuff. We have it. We're working on it. Like I said, we're real close with it. So we're excited to get that process going. And without further ado, I will be answering any Q&A. So feel free to post those in the Q&A part. I'll answer as many as I can about the platform. And then if you have any questions for Chris, I'll be sure to get those over to him. So we'll let him take over and do this thing.
Perfect. Thank you, Spencer. Yeah, I'm sure I'll be leaning on you for a few things, but no, I appreciate Spencer and the Hudl team for having me. I wanted to make this a kind of intro. Like if you're coming over from Classic Hudl, the one thing I hate is when I go into webinars, clinics, whatever it may be, and the coach is talking about cover three, and he immediately dives into the middle of what his terminology is and not actually building the blocks necessary to run cover three, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over some intro to basic stuff before I actually get into the defensive part of it. So if you are looking for more advanced stuff, I will get to it, I promise. But I know there is some people here that are coming from the classic version that just want to learn how to use the new Hudl properly to, like this webinar is called Unmask the Defense. So a little bit about me. I know Spencer introduced me a little bit, but I do coach at a small school in Massachusetts. So, which I assume is probably more than half the audience here of a one platoon team. Okay. We only have 65 guys in our entire program. Our offensive players are our defensive players. So time is the most valuable asset that we all have. And everything that I do in this presentation is going to be based on that I'm trying to get information as fast as I possibly can to you as fast as possible. And that's what New Hudl is going to allow you to do, is be as efficient as possible, but also get the information about your opponent as fast as possible. So I'll stop rambling right now. Again, if you do have any questions, please ask. If it's a question that I'm going at right now, Spencer will interrupt me and just go, and I can go over quickly. If not, we'll just hold it till the end. Okay. But first thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to get back to the main screen here. Spencer, just let me know if I'm sharing my screen. Everything looks good. It says that I am disabled from screen sharing here.
See if I can find that.
Yeah. While he's trying to find that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over the main screen, and then I'm going to go over the defensive portion of it. Again, if you're an offensive coach in this webinar, the same things apply. Obviously, you just got to mix and match the offense with the defensive stuff. But as far as like looking at your opponent and things that you should be looking at down distance wise, field zone wise, so on and so forth, it applies to both sides. So again, this is going to be more defensive focused, but you can plug and play with the offensive stuff as well.
Okay. Can you try it now?
Yeah, there we go. Got it.
All right.
Okay, perfect. All right, let me move you up here. Perfect. Okay, you got me? You can see it?
Yep, you got
Okay.
it.
All right, perfect. All right. So the very first thing you're going to see when you go over to New Huddle, of course, is this screen here. And on the left-hand side, you're going to see all your opponents for the upcoming season. If you do want to see past opponents, scroll down a little bit and you can see all your past opponents. I love this a lot more because in Classic Hudl, you had to scroll all the way down to the season, find out what season it was, then find the game. This is super simple. So if I want to find a game versus Medfield, you literally click Medfield and everything's there from all the past seasons as well. Okay. So I want to make sure I cover that because I think when you're transitioning over, you may think, well, where's this game from 2 years ago that I'm trying to find? Literally find your opponent and click on it and go through. Another thing I wanted to highlight, Spencer, is just the filter part of it, because I know this is relatively new, I believe, that you guys added, and I love it. So if I wanted to find a game from 10-17-22, I literally just type in 10-17-22, and it pops up right there. So that filter, especially if you have a ton of practice footage, each position has their own footage, whatever it may be, you can just filter in right there, find it quickly, and then go from there. So that's this screen right here. For our demo purposes, I'm just going to pick a random opponent scout film here. So what I've drawn up is just, we're going to look at one, but if you do want to look at both teams' data, you literally just highlight both teams and you click onto it, and it will bring up all the data for that set that we have right there. So I'm just going to click on this, let it load, and then we're just going to hit play. Okay. So first thing before we dive into the actual data itself, there's a few things that I think some people may have missed that I want to make sure they at least know what's happening on the screen. Because if you're coming over from Classic Hudl, this could be overwhelming, all the data that's going to be on the screen. So I'm going to try to break everything down. That way you look at it in a different light. So starting with the top right of the screen, you're going to see this watch right here, which is going to make it full screen. All right. Analyze. Now, the way I like to have it analyzed is you click on the analyze, and then I like to put it on the right side. Of course, if you put it on the left side, it will go left. If you want to full screen it, I think that's a little bit too overwhelming for those who can see this. I just like to have it on the right side here. So that's going to be my setup for this entire webinar, is right side. And then you want to click this breakdown in the top right, which is then going to bring up what you guys are probably used to in Classic Hudl, is this right here, all the data that you have. Okay. Again, I like to have that on the bottom. You can move it left to right, however you want, but I think having the tendencies on the right, the data on the bottom, is the best way to use New Huddle. Again, collaborate. If you do want to reach out to any of your players, you just simply at them like you would on Twitter. If I want to talk to Jeremiah Domicant, I literally just type in at Jeremiah Domicant and then send him a message. It's going to send him an email, ping him to let him know that I sent him a message. Okay. If I want him to check out play number 111, I can just literally type in Jeremiah, check out play number 11, and then he can get it from there. So that's what the collaborate button does. Again, navigate. If you want to get something quick, scroll down, first play of the third quarter, you can find it as easy as that. Okay. And again, if this is redundant for a lot of people, I apologize, but I want to make sure that if you are new to New Huddle, that you are getting all of this. Second thing is this taskbar right here. And this is just going to be what I call the effects toolbar, but here's all your keyboard shortcuts. If you do want to draw, if you see under Spencer in the top left here, if I draw a line, okay, it's going to create this little circle on the bottom here. Let me just fast forward. Okay, if I draw an arrow, you'll see you just hover over it and click trash can. Of course, that works for all of them. One thing I love, and I found this out recently this season, is if you have a coach that loves to draw lines, okay? I know our quarterback coach loves to draw notes. What you can do is actually go to this right here, the playback feature, and just hit effects, okay? So if I draw an arrow, I go here and click effects, it will remove all the effects. So you don't have to see an effects when you watch film. And I think that's huge because, like I say, if you do have a coach that loves to draw a lot of lines, loves to draw a lot of text boxes, whatever it may be, you can shut those off. Snap detection, of course, is when Hudl determines when the play starts, which is very accurate. You can just turn that off if you want to watch it from the very beginning. Loop clip, play clips. I'm not going to go over that. But I thought that effects feature is key, especially if you have a coach that loves to draw a ton. Settings, you can go from the speed from there. Okay. A few more house cleaning things, I should say. If you want to, and I think this is key, if you're going to customize your New Huddle to exactly what you want it to be, is to reorder your columns to make sure that you have the columns that you want. And I'll share what I have and how you can do it. So if you want to add new, just simply right here, my columns, and just click add new. And then once you get there, you can add new columns, but actually let me do that so you can see here. So if you click manage field, it will bring you to a whole different screen where you can add new breakdown data. right? So if you want to add in anything, I do add in a couple. So if anyone wants to copy me of what I add in, this is how you would do is add new breakdown data and it will go in from there. But what I like to do is I've added a few, which you'll see protection, you'll see backfield, clinic tape, and you'll see loaf. Of course, protection is just what their their offensive line protection is. Backfield, I'll talk about that in a little bit, how we identified some backfield stuff. Clinic tape, of course, if one of my kids makes something that's worthy of a clinic tape, because I do a lot of clinics in the off season, I like to just mark it with a 1 or an X, and I can just go back to it knowing that they have a clinic tape worthy play in there that I can get. And of course, loaf, that's just to show the kids on Monday, hey, who's loafing? Who do we need to single out and to make sure it doesn't happen again? So those are the 4 things that I've added to our list. And of course, once you go here, you can click and drag all these to move it, right? So if I want to move loaf up, I just click and drag to move loaf up. Okay. One last thing here. If you do want to type in data, of course, you literally just click and you can type, hey, Hudl. Okay. Add any data you want. I believe in the old Hudl, and Spencer, correct me if I'm wrong, you had to hit edit data, then you had to go in and type it in, right?
Yeah. You had to hit edit data or double click in there. Now it should just be
now it's just a single click and you can go. It's super easy to edit, and it's been a lot easy to get in all the data quickly. All right.
Before you move on, what do you mean by loaf?
Loaf. Good question. So loaf is going to be if someone's walking on the field, or is not running to the football at the standard that we want them to run at the football. We call it a loaf. And that's just something that we've developed. And when you're in a room full of all your teammates and get called out for a loaf, it's embarrassing for the kid. It's embarrassing for the coach too, right? If you're a position coach and one of your guys is loafing. So it's something that we don't have a lot of loafs, which I'm thankful for as a defensive coordinator. But if we do happen to have one, it's usually early in the season. We squash it and we go from there. Okay. All right. Next thing is just, I'm going to get to more of the meat and potatoes of this presentation now. Hopefully that covered everyone coming over from classic to new Hudl. But the biggest thing about new Hudl, which I love, is of course this tendency tab on the right. And this is where we're going to spend most of our time. So first things first, if I want to add anything, it's going to be highlighted in blue. Okay. So if I want to see the offense, which we're going to be looking at, and I want to see them in first down and I want to see them in 10, you're going to notice everything's highlighted in blue. That means it's active. If I want to get rid of it, there's 2 ways I can do it. I can click on it, okay, which is going to deactivate it, or I can come up here to filters, this blue button, and just hit clear all, or just click the X, 1 of the 2. All right. And I want to make that apparent just because I'm going to be clicking a ton in the next 20 minutes or so. So I want to make sure that everyone's on the same page. Okay. Hudl's not paying me to say this, but I feel like I have to, if we're talking about time and being efficient and saving time, get Hudl Assist. Go spend the money on, if you need to, work a car wash, whatever it is, go get it. I'm not exactly sure the price point on it. I know it was right around $1,000 ish, Spencer. Yeah. Right around there. As far as what you need to get, it's going to save you at least 2 to 3 hours of time. I know coaches that are still entering the ODK, first, second, yard line, all this information by hand. It's going to save you at least 2 or 3 hours of time to actually enter in this data. So do yourself a favor, do your staff a favor, do your family a favor, because it's going to get you back time. Go get Hudl Assist. It's going to make things a hell of a lot easier. But that's the biggest difference between old Hudl and new Hudl, especially when you get all the data in, is going to be this tendency tab on the right-hand side. And you guys can see there's a bunch of statistics over here. I'm going to go through most of them. That way, again, your head's not swirling. You know exactly how to use it. Okay. First thing we're going to talk about is just the situation tabs. I call this scoreboard analytics because essentially you can find everything from the scoreboard on here. You can find the down, you can find the distance, you can find, if you click here on more situations, you're going to be able to find the field zone, the hash, the quarter, if they're up, if they're down, and of course, the series that they're playing in. So first off, we're going to look down in distance, and the theme of this talk is going to be more of just how we can attack the passing game of the offense and different things that we can do in new Hudl to do that. Okay. So first thing we want to do is if we want to click multiple, let's say third downs. Okay. So we want to check out everything in third and long for this in particular team. We can click third. Okay. There is no 7, 8 yards to go. So we'll click 9, 10, and 11. Okay. And this is where we start to unmask our opponent a little bit to see what they're running on third and long situations. All right. So now once I did all that, I want to look third and long situations. I come down here. they are 100% pass. Okay. We take that and we write it on a mental note. I do have 2 Excel sheets, which I'm going to show you guys after, about how we take this data and plug it in. So if you're following along, I do have a template for you guys that you can take a look at more towards the end. That will help you follow along data. But it's as simple as that, guys, is being able to click third down, 9, 10, 11. Okay, so we know they're 100% pass on third and long. Now let's look at third and medium. There's no fourth down. There's no 7. Okay, so let's click third and 6. Good. And again, we're 100% pass. Okay, so we can make that note as well. Okay, third and short, how are they? Again, 1, 2, 3, click all the filters. 67, 33. Okay, we'll mark down the plays. Notice as I'm clicking all of these buttons, it's updating on the left-hand side here. So you can see exactly the play that you want. And this is the biggest difference from classic huddle to this huddle, is that when I click any button on here, it auto-populates and auto-updates. So now, okay, they're third and short plays. I can see exactly what they're running on third and short on that particular down, on that particular distance, the quarter, so on and so forth. Okay. So that's the down and distance portions of it. Again, we're going to start to ramp it up a little bit and talk more about field zones, hashes, so on and so forth. Okay. So now I want to look at down and distance field zone. Where are they? Okay. When they're backed up into their own zone, now I'm going to look at 0. Okay. We're going to look inside of their 20-yard line because it goes negative, the -10 to -20. That's where it begins. What are we looking at here? Okay. We're looking at run, pass. Okay. They're 100% run when they're backed up because they want to try to get the ball out of their zone. So now as I'm looking at what they're trying to do when they're backed up, or we're in the low red area, which I'm going to show you in a minute, now I can start to form the game plan around what their coach is thinking when they're in certain positions of the field. And again, this is how we start to unmask the type of coordinator that we're actually looking at and what he's trying to do. So if we go here, now let's look at the low red area. Again, when you're scripting your practices too, this data is so valuable because you're able to look at, all right, Thursday's our low red day or our red zone day. I can look at 6 to 8 plays here. I can scroll down and then all my plays are going to be right here. I can view all 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. 8 plays that are going to be here. I can literally just take those plays, put them in a practice script. And those are the plays that we're going to be seeing for the low red probably that week, right? Of course, the more film you have, the more data you have. And then all this becomes valuable because them running, if I go inside the 2-yard line, laser inside zone right, which is just obviously our terminology. I know that if they're inside the red and they're running that 6 to 7, 8 times, however it may be, I can then game plan, hey, what best from a run blitz perspective, or even just from a base defense perspective, I can start to shut that down. So you start to play the numbers game a little bit, but the field zone helps a ton because coaches, they're creatures of habit, right? They're going to call certain plays at certain times based on down and distance, of course, and based on where they are on the field. Moving down here, looking at hashes, you see left to right here. Okay, we got a lot of plays on the left hash, a lot of plays on the right hash. What does that mean? Does that mean a lot of jet sweep? Does that mean a lot of rollout passes? We can click on these plays and see why they're going left to right hash or why the ball is always on the left to right hash. And again, all you need to do is click on left hash. It's going to auto-populate all the plays on the left hash. And then you can start to see and chart where everyone's going from the left hash. All right. Next, looking at quarter. Of course, first quarter is valuable because you're starting to see their opening drive, right? What are they doing when they, is it P and 10 when they're first and down, from the quarter? What are they doing on their opening drive? Again, what are they doing coming out of halftime? Are they looking to, if the score's tied, are they taking a shot? Are they trying to run the football and sustain a ground game? A lot of coaches will call run plays early on because their kids are nervous and they're trying to get them into the game. How can you undress that with, run blitzes? Some coaches like to run trick plays and take the top off first play. That way they can jump on top early. This is a great way to look and just sort a Q1. What are we looking at? And how can we take advantage of their early down play calls? Because the beginning of the game, of course, is in the middle 4 of the game as well is one of the most important. Middle 8 of the game is most important. And this is where you can identify it. Again, here looking at score, you can see when the team is down 8, 1 through 8, up 1 through 8, down 9 to 6. How is the offensive coordinator calling plays when they're in this particular area? This is what this section is going to do for you. And then series of the game, right? Again, what are they calling? First series of the game, second, third, fourth, fifth. Once the coach gets off his script, what's he looking at? Is he looking to be more, basic in his play calls, or is he reaching deep in the bag with his motions and shifts? This is a good indicator of, you can look at, the first 2 drives and say, okay, what's he doing for drive 1, 2, and 3? And what's beautiful about the Hudl cameras that are out there too, is you can see the scoreboard in the corner, and then you can see what's happening on the field. So you can actually see what the score is. And then that information, of course, is plugged into here.
We do have a question for you.
Yeah, sure. Yep.
Alex asked, how many plays do you consider just noise versus an actual tendency? Obviously, 4 plays inside the -10 isn't much of a sample.
Right. And I think that's where early on, you have to make the decision of what type of team you're playing. If it's someone that you've never played before, you've never coached against before, you just have to take the data set that you have, the data set. But I mean, most coaches, I know, at least in Massachusetts, you have to give the last 2 films. So we have that data set. But I would say anything over, we'll take a look here. So I'm looking at laser inside zone here to the left is their top play with 5 clips. It depends on the data set. And I know that's such a blanketed answer, and I hate to say that. When we go into looking at the scripts, I think that will help better answer a little bit more. I don't want to give too much away right now, but to answer your question, it depends on the data set that you get. And I hate that answer, but Spencer, I don't know if you had anything you want to chime in, but again, I guess it just depends on the numbers. Because if you have 4 runs inside the 20, I know what you're saying. But then you have like 0 because they're only running 1 play and they only made it inside the 10 or inside the 24 for those 4 plays. Then you got to kind of relate that data set to what it is.
Yeah, that's definitely interesting. I would almost break it down as run pass within that in that section as well. So I want to see what are their top plays as a run, yet what are their top plays as their pass plays.
Right.
Especially like you said, if you don't play that team a lot and you just have this film on them, then you got to work with what you got, and you gotta hope that. But that's what this helps with so much, is you can see those percentages and the amount of clips for each one. It really helps you understand, are they balanced when they're down there? Are they heavy? We're just going to pound it into the end zone. Do they want to spread you out and try and get it scored, or what are they trying to do at that point?
Yep, exactly. And we're going to cover, again, this was just, I call it scoreboard analytics, but that was just the top part of this. We're going to get more into like the actual nitty gritty of the run pass. So that's what I meant. Alex, right? That's who asked the question. I believe that's, we're going to talk a little bit more about that in just a minute. Now, what do we do with all this data, right? And I think I'm going to show you, again, I want to show you guys a sheet in just a minute, but we want to take out the most valuable pieces of information on this, essentially down and distance wise. I think that's a huge indicator of, where a coach likes to be. Like for this in particular team, 3rd down. Okay, if I get 3rd down, essentially 5+, they're looking to air the football out. If they're short, they had 1 pass play within the short. And then I like to look at like, where in the game are they? And then start to pull out all this data. Again, field zone, I like to look at that data as well. But again, look at the score as well. And then the series, these 2 right here, I just like to look at where they are in the game. If they're always down and because they have to throw the ball because they're always down, you got to take things into perspective based on where they are in the game. And this score tab helps you out. But again, I'll show you guys in just a minute what I mean. Moving on, I want to talk a little bit more about the run pass stuff. So let me clear all the filters here. And okay. So now if you look run pass, again, simple. If I click here with run, it's going to show me all of the run plays that I have here. If I click pass plays, it's going to show me all the pass plays here. Now, why is this valuable, right? Compared to the old Hudl, at least. It's valuable because it helps me create my practice script and I can get going from day one. So we talk about all of the things that I added in here. So offensive formation, offensive play, I let Hudl assistant do everything that I possibly ODK, down, distance, yard line. I let them take care of all that. What me and my assistants will do is we will go in and do offensive formation, offensive play, protection, and backfield. Now, it's good. I think as a coach, you need to do the offensive play and the offensive protection, the offensive formation, because it's going to help you just mentally prepare for what you're going to see. Are you seeing a triple option team that week? Are you seeing a little bit of spread and a little bit of double wing? You mentally need to prepare yourself for what you're going to see. And this data entry is going to help you out. It stinks. Don't get me wrong. I hate doing it. But by the time you're done doing it, you're able to at least get a grasp of what they're going to be coming out in. So what I like to do is on Mondays, I will go through all of their formations. So once we're done labeling all of their formations, I'll click view all. Okay, here are all the formations that I'm going to get for that week that they showed in the previous games. And that's what I like to do Monday. Make sure that we're prepared through every blitz that we run, every base call that we have. I want to make sure that my guys know when they see a formation come out, they're not scratching their head saying, well, I haven't seen this, or I've only had 2 days to prepare for this. No, we're starting it either Sunday or Monday when we get together that first day of install. We're going over formations on the whiteboard, and then we're going over formations on the field. So we do both. So if I'm showing them what a deuces formation looks like, I'm literally pulling up this clip right here and saying, hey, when they're 2x2, this is what it's going to look like. If they're, double tight wing, how I identify it, it's going to look like this formation. Again, we draw it up, we go on the field and do it. So that way the kids are getting a double dose of the formations for that week. And again, it's just so easy by clicking on that formations tab, clicking more, all the data entry you did, and it's all ready for you in a nice, easy format here. Next, we're going to take a look at the passing situations, right? So if you're playing a team that likes to air the football out a ton, click on pass. Okay, then I'm going through each formation to look at where are they pass heavy, and then what plays are they running out of it. All right. So again, this is the beauty of it. Once you type in all the formation and plays, if you scroll down a little bit, you'll see all of their passing plays. So everything that has percentages next to it. Again, we're trying. I believe Alex asked a question like, what's worthy of practicing? Because that's one thing offensive coordinators can do to us, right? They can give us one little wrinkle, and then as a defensive coordinator, you're like, well, I have to go over this with my guys because I don't want to get burnt on it, right? If it's worthy. So, and what I mean by that, if I'm only getting one clip of double posts, I'll find a way to work it into practice somehow, but I'm not going to spend a ton of time on it, especially if they're only running it one time. Our terminology of sword, if they're only running it one time, again, I'll find a way to work it in, but I'm not going to spend that valuable, precious time. I'd rather spend more time on the thunder concept or the mesh swing concept, which those are their get out of jail free cards, is running those on third and long, like we talked about earlier. Those are the types of plays that they're running, and that's what the data is telling us. So I want to hammer that in, because when they get a 2x2 formation, they know I'm going to see thunder, mesh swing, cross right, and then I can go in and play it. Okay. So is one clip enough? No, but I think if you do have like a pregame walkthrough, it's something that you can kind of put in the back of their heads. Hey, when you get this formation, make sure you keep your inside leverage, because they have shown double post once. We don't want to get beat on that double post if they're trying to beat us in quarters or wherever it may be. Again, if you're looking at data sets with only screens, so I have halfback screen left, halfback screen right. If you have, 2 and 2 or 3 and 3, obviously combine them together. That's 6 plays of screens that they ran. So then you can obviously move that up on the list, even though it is further down on the list in your plays. So just one way to think about it. Again, that's only the pass plays. Again, we're going to do the same with run plays. One of the things when you're looking at this data too, you don't get paralysis by analysis, right? And I always tell that to our coaches is we can dig inside this data and find as much as we can, but at the end of the day, the Jimmies and Joes are going to win you the football game. So how do we put them in the best position possible to make the plays? And what I like to do is I like to take the top 7 to 8 run plays that they have and make sure that we're stout, we're stopping those. Okay. If you're a youth coach watching this, or a small high school like we are, and you want to do the top 5 run plays, do that. Just make them play left-handed. But that's the way I look at this data is I take it, I'm saying, okay, can I take away inside zone, their laser sweeps, their rocket sweeps, any tosses that they have in the counter play? Are we stout in those 4 to 5 different run plays? Okay, we are good. I can feel comfortable going into the game that if they're going to give us pin and pull or whatever it is, we'll have to adjust on the fly and play it. But we've practiced it throughout the week where we can, in past games or leading up to that week, we've practiced pin and pull. So the kids will be able to see it and go from there. Spencer, you got a question or no?
Yes, we do have a couple of questions.
Sure.
So it looks like 2 asked the same question. Is there a reason that you include play direction in your play name when the play direction tells you the direction?
That is a fantastic question.
Just say halfback screen.
Yes, that's a fantastic question. So the reason I do that, and I actually had this in my notes, I forgot to mention it. When Hudl breaks down your plays through assist, they do it from the offensive perspective, right? So if I'm looking, obviously we want it from the defensive perspective. So there's 2 things you can do. One, you can go through and change everything from play direction to left to right. So you'll see here play directions to the right. Okay, and I'll run the play, and the play is actually going to the defense's left. So there's 2 things you can do. You can go through and just change everything right to left. I don't do that. The way I do it is within the play name. So when I see laser inside zone, I'm using our offense's terminology. I know that play is going to the left, and the kids know the play is going to the left. So that's a very good question, but that's one of the main reasons why I do that. Anything else, Spencer? No, good. Okay. 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 One other thing too, and just 2 notes of custom things that I do that I just wanted to include before we actually move on to the templates is the protection aspect of it. So again, this is our terminology. Excuse me, I'll get that in a second. The backfield part of it. So we identify backfields in different ways. If they're even aligned, okay, and this means that they're standing directly next to the quarterback, or if they're negative aligned, which means they're at a backfield angle. So you can fancy this up however you want to. Plus aligned obviously means he's standing in front of the quarterback. If they're running certain plays off of that, that's what the backfield column is for. So if you see even and negative, if there is any tendency from that. So what I can do is I can go to all my even plays and see, is there a run pass correlation? No, there's not. If I go to negative, okay, well now when they're negative, they're 81% run and 19% pass. So now I can start to use that data to my advantage where I can tell my linebackers, hey, if he's in a negative alignment, we can probably cue ourselves into a run. I want you to be a little bit more aggressive in that situation. So little tip-offs like that can be just essentially charted by just putting backfield alignments of even, negative. If you have a pistol back, which I'm sure some of you are wondering, there is different things you can do as far as how deep is he behind the quarterback. And that's something you can see on the field. It's a little bit harder to see if you don't have the proper angle on the sideline, but that's mainly what we'll do is backfield is like, is there any cues that we can take from the backfield? And if so, I want to chart them in this. And just so happens this game, we were able to take the even and a negative alignment to be able to move that. One thing too, I forgot to mention, and this is a new feature that Hudl had as well, is we have players film for us. Obviously this is a scout film that they sent to us, but we have players film us, which I'm sure a lot of you coaches do too. If the film is bad for whatever reason, which we have a ton of it if our parent can't film, you can zoom in by just rolling your mouse wheel. I know that was a newer feature that came out recently, but if you want to see injured players on the sideline, for whatever reason, if they have a star player that's injured, is that really him? You can zoom in and out of it. Again, one of the things I had in my notes, I want to make sure at least I share with you because I thought that was a pretty cool feature that was recently added to it. Okay. And the last thing I want to talk about here is just a protection aspect of it. So again, when we look to blitz the quarterback, I want to know what protection they're in. Is the center sliding to the left? Is he sliding to the right? Are they in a full slide situation? This is going to dictate my blitzes. So what I can do is I can go ahead and chart, are they keeping the running back in the protection? Is he flaring out? Is he check releasing out? Is he in blocking? Whatever it may be. And the way that we chart this is, of course, we use our terminology as well, but when you see these 50, 51s, 59s, I'm able to see on what down and distance, right? So let's click 59. Okay, so I can click 59 and then I can scroll up here to passes, right? And then from there, I can see, okay, where are they running in the 59 protection? And am I able to blitz it effectively? So if that running back is in the protection and there's, he's always stepping away from the running back, okay, when we identify as 59, or he's always stepping to the running back, we're going to chart that as well. Because if he is, when we blitz, we want to blitz in situations where we can get one-on-one with that running back and get somebody in the quarterback's face, whether that be showing a simulated pressure, whether that be showing and then bailing out, blitzing the edges on a double fire, running a pick stunt up front, whatever it may be. This is going to allow us to identify that data by where that center is sliding to, or if it is a full slide and that back is supporting on the edge. So I think this protection tab is huge. If you don't have it, definitely add it. And again, just identify with your staff, hey, when we see the center slide to the left, we're going to identify as this, and so on and so forth. That's if your offense doesn't run any slide protections. We have about 3 to 4 different protections in our offense. So I just keep it simple with the kids because they're able to see what the offense is doing offensively, terminology wise, and then incorporate it to what they're doing. So that's what that protection tab is. Okay, went over clang tape, went over low. Okay, so now you're probably asking, what do I do with all this data, right? You just threw out all this stuff at me, run, pass, all that good stuff. What do we do with it, right? So now this is one of the things that we actually take this data and plug it into. And this is what my guy in the booth uses. And this is what I have on the field as well. So I made a little dummy sheet for you guys. You're able to see it. But from here, again, I can take that data, that first and long data, and plug it into here. That way I always have it in the field and my booth guy always has it in the booth. And he is consistently every single play in my ear talking about down and distance, talking about, what they like to do on certain downs. And I just threw in some dummy data here. That way you guys can see it. But now I'm taking everything from, okay, they're backed up. Like we talked about, less than 20 yards. They're 100% run. We had a great punt. We pinned them inside the 10. Now I'm thinking to be aggressive on the run blitz and try to go get them because of that data that we studied from just being able to click around on the new Hudl. Second thing here. Okay. Again, first long, again, you can tailor this to however fits your team or whatever makes the most sense. If you do want to do by field position, if you want to do by the series, obviously play with that data. Again, the way I sort it out is through base personnel calls. This is just what I like for base personnel. If they do switch their personnel, maybe they bring in a whole new era of personnel. I believe this team did where they ran a certain formation. They swapped everybody. If they have a certain player in the slot, again, long distance adjustments through here. So, and then I just have my entire call sheet with all my calls here. So again, taking the data, putting it on the sheet. One thing I make sure my guy in the booth doesn't do, he doesn't narrate the game. Okay. We're consistently feeding each other data the entire time. That way we can make accurate calls and we're on the same page, right? I'm not calling something and him being like, why did you call that? We have all the data here. We have all of our calls and what we want to do here. Of course, we're going to go off script sometimes, but as far as being consistent with the data, this is what we have here. This last thing here is something that we've just started doing this past season. And I fell in love with this. Is one thing you can steal from this webinar. Please steal this. This is what we call our QB launch chart. And we have this template. I think we have it for free on our Facebook group, American Football Coaches. If you look at that on Facebook, if you want this or a version of this, email me. I'm happy to send it to anyone that wants it. But what we do here is we then take all the data from Hudl and we plug it into here. Okay. And I have my linebacker coach do this every single week. I plug in all the data on Hudl. He'll do the launch chart and we make sure that everything is coinciding with each other. So just from left to right here, essentially, we're going to get the QB info. How tall is he? Height, weight, right-handed or left-handed, because that makes obviously a big difference. What's his time to throw the football? Now, if he's a catch and throw kind of guy, I'm not going to blitz him. All right. And we had a game this year. We had 4 interceptions, should have had a 5th. We dropped 1, but I didn't blitz that quarterback simply from looking at the data. We looked at him and he was catching and throwing the football within 2 to 1 second. Well, why are you going to blitz someone who's catching and throwing? You're wasting defenders. You're putting your guy on one-on-one situations. So we dropped 8 and it was successful to us, but we would have never found that out unless we had the data here of seconds to throw the football and seconds to release time. So that helped us out a ton. And we just do a 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000 count. That's what he does, at least when we share this information. Top plays, where do you think that comes from? Okay. If we're looking at top passing plays, of course, because it's the QB launch chart, we're getting it from here. Okay. Click pass plays. And this is all the data it's coming from, the formation and the plays here. So if you look, he's just taking this data and plugging it into this types of plays in the bottom left. Targeted players. Again, I threw in some dummy data here, but how often is he throwing to one receiver? Again, another game this year, we looked at this and there was a huge discrepancy on this guy was targeted, X amount of times. And this guy, let's say 20 to 30 times. This guy was only targeted 3, another one 4, another one 2. So clearly he's looking at this guy. And I know the film watching it will tell you, hey, he loves to throw this guy, but let the data tell you that, hey, he loves throwing to this guy. We were able to double this player. He only had 2 catches in the game for about 6 yards, nothing crazy. But again, we let the data tell us where they're throwing it the most. Miscellaneous, again, this is just anything that you want to look at throughout the game. Is he throwing more interceptions, more completions? If he did scramble, how many times did he scramble, run pass? So this is just miscellaneous stuff that our coach will fill in that he thinks is meaningful. And then any notes that we have on the quarterback, right? Is he only throwing to his right-hand side? Is he only throwing to his left-hand side? And this is what this chart is on the right side here. Every star that you see, my linebacker coach goes through and he charts every single throw that this quarterback made. Now, why do we want to do that? Let's match up the data now. If he's throwing 48 times within the box and it's taking him 3 seconds to throw the football, I know that I can get pressure through the middle of the field, running pick stunts, ET stunts, whatever it may be, knowing that he's not going to move outside the pocket. I think I took this from another game. I think he threw close to, it was like 60-ish times, 50-ish times. And this is the data we had on him. So he wasn't rolling out pretty much at all. He was a bigger kid, sit in the pocket, throw the football. So, I can game plan my blitzes on certain ways to attack it just be based on this data right here of just having, okay, when he deepened up, he threw middle screen. So I could tell my D-line that, hey, he catches and starts backpedaling fast, middle screens come and slow your rush down a little bit. But, again, I thought this taking data from Hudl and then plugging it into these two charts have helped us a ton, at least just to get a better understanding of our opponent. Again, though, you do have to make sure your players understand this because they're ultimately going to be on the field and making these plays too. So again, if anyone wants this, feel free to email me, reach out to me on Twitter, whatever it may be. If contact at vIQtorysports.com or at Chris Victory on Twitter. I'm happy to send out what we have. But Spencer, that was all I had. And if you guys have any questions, I'm happy to answer those.
Awesome. Yeah. We got one here. Is there a direct way to pull data out of Hudl, or do you need to retype it into the template? So we do have the ability to export your data out of Hudl, out of new Hudl at this point. So if you click on the game in the upper left and then click the three dots, there's an option to export data. And if you go ahead and click on that, you see that there's a couple of different options. So you can click on only the fields that are showing for you. You can click on all the fields, and you can include any empty fields that you have in there. So you can pull all of that stuff in there at one time. Where can they find the QB launch chart again? And I'm going to post your email here.
Yeah, that's probably best. That way I can just send it to everybody that wants it. Yeah, just contact at vIQtorysports.com. Victory spelled with the IQ.
Perfect. So we got a few of those. Where is the data in Hudl that you're entering the launch chart for the stars? Are these estimates you're creating by watching the film, or are you using our pass zone section, or what? What are
Yeah, it's a great question. So what my linebacker coach does is he'll go through and you can do this as well, is he'll start. So like, for instance, here we have deuces tight mesh swing. So he'll chart essentially where he is based on the film he gets. So right there, he's throwing the ball from inside the pocket right there. That's what we classify as where he's starting, where he's finishing. If he does move off platform a little bit, where is that ball coming out of his hands? And that's what we categorize it as. So it does take a little bit more work. That's why if you are entering in all the data, I recommend you have someone else do this launch chart. It also allows you to give your coaches some accountability as well. If you're someone like me, like I want to go in and enter everything just so from a coordinator standpoint, like I understand it. And then our staff gets together and meets and we talk about everything that we have, but it gives my other coaches some accountability of, hey, they're not just waiting for Chris to fill out this thing while I sit there and twiddle my thumbs. Like they're going to watch the film. I'll enter in all data. They'll go and watch the film. And that way, when we meet the next day, we have everything ready to go. And we share ideas back and forth in the defensive room. But yeah, good question.
Second, got a few more that wanted an email.
Yeah.
Do you edit clips before team meetings? Our player filmers are sometimes a bit distractible. And we all want that life.
We had a player this past season who thought the on button was off, so we filmed the ground for the entire, and then went up and turned it off. So I feel your pain there, but we will. Our head coach actually goes through and he will edit the clips if necessary. But just talking about the snap detection that Hudl does, so you see this little arrow right here. So technically, this clip started here. If I play it, you can see guys breaking out of the huddle, but what Hudl will do is they'll actually, what they call snap detection, is they'll actually play it from right before there. That way it plays right away. So Spencer, I don't know if you want to talk more about how that.
Yeah, we usually do, I think it's 3 to 5 seconds before snap.
Okay. Yeah.
So if you ever have a filmer who decides that they're going to film, I don't know, forever in front of it or after it, we trim it as much as possible. You also now have the start and stop flags within new Hudl, so you can adjust that by just either rewinding once you get close, or you can just like he did drag it out there. So
Yeah. What was
but
what was the
yeah,
name? What was the name of the coach that asked that question?
that was, let me see, where did that one go?
That's all right if you can't find it.
Mm,
Yeah. And the way to tell is these arrows right here at the very bottom. I don't know if you can really see it on my screen, but like at the very bottom right here, that's when Hudl's determining the snap detection, where it's going to say, hey, the ball snapped at this moment right here. And like I said, it's pretty accurate. I can click on any of these passing plays or any of these plays in general, and you can see right at that arrow, the ball's going to be snapped. So that's what that is.
Yeah, that was Kent.
Yep.
Jeffrey.
Yeah, Kent. Right.
Yes. Okay. Do you use the pass zone field to indicate where passes are hitting on the field? Is that data still used? If so, how do you define those zones?
Is that the? I don't know if you want to jump in and help me here. Is that the
There should
the
be
field
a
zone?
pass. So there should be a pass zone chart actually within here.
Okay.
If you fill it out, I think it's under offensive tendencies. Scroll down a little further. See, and I don't know that you guys more offensive tendencies maybe. Oh yeah, I bet it's
Yeah, 3 cards and no data. Yeah.
3 cards in
Yeah. So
there's a pass zone one.
Pass zone. Yeah. So to answer your question, we do not.
Yeah. The way that one works though is we have 9 sections on the field. We do not set what those parameters need to be or anything like that. Might be something that your linebackers coach could look into as far as that to even help with your QB throw chart. But essentially what it is you fill out, you label it. So if they throw a swing route to the left, you say, okay, that was zone 1. You do that stuff. Now we've heard several times that coaches are interested in a 12 one so that they, or even an 11 one so that they can have swing and then the rest of it. I don't know of any improvements that's going to come in at this point. We're sticking with 9, but it's not to say that it won't happen. I know it's only being asked for. So
yeah, that's a great question though, and something I think definitely to add to the launch chart as well.
Yeah.
That's so valuable, the launch chart, because you get a complete picture of like what the offensive coordinator is trying to do, but also where the quarterback feels more comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, the more data into that sheet, the better.
Right. Yeah, 100%. Okay. How many ways do you label backfield for 20 personnel?
Again, that's a circumstantial situation, so it depends, right? So if they're split, if they're pistol offset, that's mainly like it depends, right? And I hate, again, another blanketed answer, but it depends. So if they're split, we'll label it as split. If they're pistol offset strong or pistol offset weak, we'll label that as well, which is pistol WK or pistol strong. We do play a team that does that, where they'll give you that pistol strong, but then they'll also take that one of the split backs and then move him up to an H back, and they use the same personnel. So again, small school problems, right? You have the same players playing the same thing. They're not going to, if they do come out in 20 personnel, it will probably be, a running back or a slot receiver that comes in, which some people may classify as 10, some might classify as 20. But to answer your question, yeah, we'll do the split back, pistol offset. And if he moves up to an H position, we'll just recategorize the formation and then obviously chart the plays from there. But again, you can get as creative as you want with this backfield, right? It's not going to be the same for every team. And I told my coaches that too. Like it may be even negative positive one week. It may be pistol offset one week, and we change it on each week.
Awesome. Okay. Let me look here. Brian, which fields do you have Hudl Assist fill in for you? You don't get to pick and choose which ones they fill in. We fill in 16 columns. The only ones that are kind of optional at this point are your offensive formations and backfield. If you don't name those under team and then team settings, then those just show up blank. However, if you ever go in and name them, then they will get filled in. But this is the page, and let me post that here for you, Brian. That is the page that will that will show what columns we break down as far as that goes. So we break down offensive formation, backfield, offensive strength, efficiency, series. And then we do the tedious ones, like we do quarter, ODK, down distance, yard line, gain loss, hash, motion direction, play type, play direction, and result. We do all the ones that there's not a coach in America that loves film. So you can't convince me otherwise.
Yeah.
So we take care of those ones that are the ones that you just don't love. Julie asked if you could describe your game prep Monday through Thursday just a little more.
Yeah, sure. So Mondays, again, we're Monday's a heavy film day for us. So we're going to be actually game planning again, right? So I'm the defensive coordinator, but I'm also the wide receivers coach. So I wear two hats, and essentially where I'm game planning defensively, but offensively, I got to be in tune with what they're trying to do as well. So again, this is why I emphasize so much time. Like we talk about getting a Hudl assistant, like letting your coaches do things for you. That way you're not stressed and pulling your hair out the day before. But we give our guys Sunday off. So that's their rest recovery day. If they got to do homework or whatever it may be, we give that off. Monday, we're in the film room. And we'll draw up everything on the field, make sure they can see it visually. We'll draw up on the board, and then we're going to hit the field, typically just helmets, and just go through formations, top plays. It's more of a walkthrough feel, a more up-tempo walkthrough feel, I should say. It's not, lackluster. Everyone's just screwing around. Like we're tempoing things and we're throwing formations at them. That way we can just get lined up properly, right? Half a defense to get lined up. Tuesdays and Wednesdays are our full padded days. Okay. We do bang a little bit. So again, we're going over situational plays on Tuesday. So working on coming out plays, we're working on first and second down. So early down situations, and we're sprinkling a little bit of blitz in there Thursday, because we only practice Wednesday, and then Thursday we play on Friday. Tuesday, Wednesday are going to be our work days. Wednesday, we're working more low red zone plays. We're sprinkling in heavy blitz now, so making sure coverage-wise we're okay. Thursday is I hate to call it a walkthrough, is our day for the coaches. And this is something that we started doing, I believe, like 4 years ago as a staff, is we treat Thursday like a game day. So we have our headsets on, like we're walking through the game as if we're playing the game that day. We go through every situation possible. I know it's a little bit off script from talking about New Hudl here, but we go through every situation possible. So we have a script that has just every situation possible in a game. And we want to make sure our kids are comfortable in that situation and they know exactly what to do in that situation, because 99% of the time situations win or lose you football games. So that's loosely our structure. Who's that, Julie, that asked? If you want to shoot me a DM after, I'm happy to chat more about it. But like loosely, that's what we're looking at from like Tuesday, Wednesday are really our work days. Thursdays are cleanup days, situational days. And then Friday, of course, we play our game.
Awesome. And then Greg asked, any way to designate a Y off or a sniffer and direction they go field boundary?
Good question. We build that in because we run that offensively. So I just use our terminology. I don't know if Spencer, that'd be a question for you, but at least the easiest way that I found is I'll build it into our terminology. So like if we're using, like we call it arc, like we'll use arc, we bluff, whatever it may be, I'll build it into the play call. So that way when our kids see, for whatever, Trey Wright, arc 11, like they know in their head, okay, we're looking at this specific play. So that's my answer, which I know isn't very helpful, but Spencer, I don't know if there's anything on the back end.
We have, so we have the different columns like field boundary and things like that, that you absolutely can fill out. And it helps. Like I love field boundary. As a guy in the box, I'm always a big fan of field boundary because I can see what's going on there. So I want to know, like, all right, are they more likely to run towards their sideline? Do they like going to the field? All of that type of stuff. So I almost look at that as much as I do play direction and that type of stuff, because I want to see where what their tendency is like. It also helps, field boundary isn't great for middle of the field plays, but right, that's when you focus more on play direction type. So,
right.
Let's see. I like that, Lamar. Lamar said, I've done pass zones and counted the zones from left to right, 1, 2, 3 zones. Any passes hit till 8 yards, 4, 5, 6 were 15 yards, 7, 8, 9, anything deeper
The
than
deep
15.
throws. I like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Hashes separated the zones.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. That's
awesome. Yeah.
Great way to do it. Greg says, thank you. And I'm getting you an answer on cut up. So I actually will just answer this quick. So what we consider a cut up is no different than like a playlist. So the playlist style, like when you create that playlist, it allows you to send in your different clips, your number of plays that you want to share with that group of players. Essentially, I just want to make it so that, my offensive linemen or defensive linemen are focused on 7 plays instead of 107 plays, because realistically, I mean, I don't think I'm alone in this. If a kid is watching the game, they're going to just focus on what happened during the game and not their position.
Right.
So I want to pull out 7 to 10 plays, and then I can share that. I can share that out from there. Let's see. Benjamin asked, do you host X's and O's talk as far as a defense?
We have in the past. If you go look at our YouTube, vIQtory Sports on YouTube, we have 2 channels. We have Coaching Football with vIQtory Sports, and we have just our main channel, vIQtory Sports. We do have clinics on there. I thought about bringing them back, so I guess it's a TBD. If you are interested in it, please let me know, because I've gone back and forth. Me and my brother usually host it, so it's something that I've thought of bringing back. But if you're looking for something right now, you're going to find it probably on our YouTube channel.
So, could assists fill in strong versus weak play, or does our staff have to enter that? So we do offensive strength. So it's not necessarily the play itself as strong versus weak, as far as what direction it goes. Instead, we do left or right, because we don't want to say that, the strong side is where they're going with it, but you actually are focused on a different portion. I know, like for myself, a lot of times we're focused on where the tight end is, because we're in a big run area. So they like to run the football. So we're more focused on where the tight end is, rather than do they have 3 receivers out to one side. It just depends on your tendency as far as that goes.
Yep.
Rick want to know if you use magic scripts at all.
I do not. What was that for?
Magic scripts are our version of, essentially it's like an auto.
Oh, like you draw a play,
scripts.
And is that where you draw a play and they'll fill it in for you?
Yeah. So if you do like practice scripts, it can take the data that you have in your breakdown,
right,
put in there, and
yeah, we do not. It's something that actually me and my brother did talk about, because like every team that we play runs somewhat of the same formations. So for us, it was like, could we just script this thing up and go from there? So the short answer is no, but it is something that we have talked about. If you do use it, I'd love to talk to you. Who's that, Rick? I'd love to.
I believe that was Rick.
Yeah, if it was, I'd love to talk to you about how you use it, because it's something I definitely want to play around with.
Awesome. Harry asked if you have any columns for trick plays.
I do not, and it's something that I just label. I believe this team ran like a double reverse pass. I think I'm trying to find it here. I'll have to dig around and find it. I don't have a column for trick play. I just put it in with the plays. And again, that's one of those, I don't want to have paralysis by analysis, right? I don't want to be so focused on like something they ran once in a situation. I'll tell my guys that, hey, they did run. If we did get this toss action and your receiver leaves you, yell reverse, 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 just make them aware of it. That way they can play it. But if they're pulling guards towards the trick plays or whatever it is, like we should be reading that anyways. but I don't want to put too much in the kids' heads. Again, our same players play offense, right? Which I'm sure yours maybe do, but it's those kids are getting so much information flooded throughout the week that I just can't like spend too much time on one thing. The kid will be frozen on the field. And we've had that happen in the past. So I just try to at least make note of it, but I don't want to spend too much time on it.
Ed wanted to know what your process is for making scout cards.
Great question. So what we'll do is, again, we'll have a coach do this. This is one of the responsibilities that we have. So knowing our, I have pass highlighted. So again, we'll come into here, we'll hit here. Okay. And then we'll go through each play, thunder, mesh swing. We'll see where it's at. And then we just use the Hudl draw tool. So I'll label, this was Linfield that we played, Linfield 2023, 2022. And I'll just draw their formations and then I'll draw their plays as well. And I'm literally just drawing from here. So, and we have, either I'll do it or we'll have a coach that does it. But again, and this is why like time wise is so precious, because you don't want to go through and just like every single play that they have, you're drawing it up, you'll drive yourself crazy. Like have them master the top 5, 6, 7 plays. That way they just know and they can stop those top plays and then adjust to the plays that come after it. I think Julie asked the question before about like, what does our practice schedule look like? We only really have 2.5 days-ish to really get everything packed into those 2 hours of practice that we have each day. So again, like how can I maximize my time and just cover those plays? So that's how we do it. It is helped, and the kids are able to see route recognition when we do our team periods, 7-on-7, so on and so forth. But that's how we do it. Yeah. I just take a look at here and I'll just go on the Hudl playbook tool and just draw it out and then print it out. And then I label it. This is a nice trick for you. Label it 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we'll have an injured player. We had a kid that was out this entire year, was one of our assistants. And I just labeled it 1, 2, 3, 4. And then when I'm looking at my practice script, just put 1 and then put the play. So that way the kid can just hold it up. Okay, go to play 1, hold it up. Good. I know sitting in the back of the defense or in front of it, I move from time to time. What I'm looking at, what player we're looking at, and where it's rapid fire. Like we're trying to get, I'm trying to get my first group and my second group in, if we're doing, 14, 15 plays, I'm trying to do that within 8 to 10 minutes. So we're consistently moving as fast as we possibly can and getting as many reps as possible. So, and the student assistant knows that too. Like hey, let's go, hurry up, let's go. And we're moving as quickly as we can.
Awesome. Give me just a second here.
Yeah.
Okay. Benjamin want to know, how do you use Hudl as far as preparation for spring practice, especially for the first few days of spring training?
Good question. We're in Massachusetts, so we unfortunately can't do any of that. We actually don't even get to start till like August 20th, which is a conversation for another day. I'm sure my Massachusetts coaches that are watching right now are probably shaking their head as well. But we don't get any spring practice. But if you're breaking this down practice wise, I would go in and we try to film, like we film everything. If you're watching this right now and you don't film like everything in your practice, please do, for 2 reasons. One, if you have any issues with parents or players saying, why aren't I playing? You can just pull up film of your positional practice, show them, it will shut them up right away. That's the first thing. Second, obviously, is to be able to learn through your position. So for us, if I were to have a spring practice, I would make sure we typically have 2 cameras hot every practice. Well, 3 now, because we just got the Hudl camera, but we have 2 handheld cameras or an iPad, and they're consistently filming individual positions or team periods. As soon as we're done, we upload them and we're good to go. So that's kind of how we go about using, Hudl early on in the season. Let's say preseason is like, we're filming literally everything. And it is a little bit of work after practice, but at the same time, like you're able to better yourself play by play. We bring kids in the office. Hey, here's what you're doing wrong. And again, we show them everything that they're doing right or doing wrong. That way they can visually see it.
Gene had a follow-up to that. Are the cameras just on tripods, or do you have students doing it?
Students. So typically if you're hurt at our high school, like we put you to work. So you're either filling up water bottles or you're filming. It's one of the two. So I know some teams, some coaches I've talked to will just have like a line of guys that's on the sideline hanging out. We try to get those guys moving. Obviously, if their hand's broken, they're not filming, but at the same time, we always try to keep those guys moving. So typically guys that are injured are the ones that are filming. And if it's like completely necessary, we're like, an assistant coach has to film a drill for whatever reason, he will. But we typically will have guys, and that's done before practice too. Like, hey, I'll go to our student assistant this past year and just be like, hey, I need you to film this period, this period, this period. He marks it down in his sheet because we give him a practice script, and he knows I need to be, my butt needs to be here, here, and here with a film camera in my hand, filming this thing, or Coach Chris is going to kill me. So, and that's just how we organize it. It's been beneficial for us.
For sure. Greg, we'll come back to yours, I promise. I just want to get a couple of these before we go back into a demo. Chris, what do you feel are the top 5 to 7 pieces of info you need to be successful each week?
Good question. I guess just going back to these sheets, I think down and distance is huge. I think personnel is a huge tell, especially if you have a team that likes to change personnel and they run certain things. We play a team every year that has 20-ish, 30-ish guys on their roster. So like they're the same guys play offense, that plays defense, that plays kickoff, that plays kick return. So they don't give you much of a tell. So that's where you really have to dive into the analytics and kind of get in the coach's head, because you can't really get in the player's head, right? What else do we like? Down distance is huge. Field zone's huge. I think practicing the red zone plays. If you're just practicing plays at the 50-yard line for an hour, you're really not doing yourself a service. So I really would dive into those field zones of what the coaches like to call when they're backed up, midfield, again, first, second, third down. Hashes too, and Spencer alluded to this as well. Like, are they a field boundary team? Like, are they always? We play a team that always runs to the field. It's just where their coach feels comfortable and he thinks he can get his athletes in space. So he's calling his concepts to the field. Do they put FIB? Are they putting trips into the boundary so they can do this to you? I think formation wise, protection is huge. And that's something that I've really been studying the past couple of years, is like, how can I manipulate your protection with blitzes and stunts, pick stunts, things like that. Backfield alignments. I think offensive coaches sometimes will just put guys in certain spots because it makes sense for the play and doesn't necessarily make sense for their offense. And the example of that is like, if a team's running, a pass play, they may put their running back in a plus alignment. Well, if he's standing in front of the quarterback, he can't get a handoff, right? So some of those things that some teams will do formationally that you can try to take advantage of. I don't know if that's 5 to 7 different things, but personnel, play, protection, backfield alignments are pretty much the big ones I would look at. I hope they answer your question, but those are the big ones I'd look at.
Awesome. Do you have JV players go through any practice on Mondays and then come back for the JV game, or do you just have them prepare for JV?
Yeah, great question. Typically they just prepare for JV and then need to get caught up the next day. So the way our practice schedule is structured is we'll have a pre-practice before every practice, and we have set things that guys need to do. So, the quarterbacks are loosening up their arms, the running backs are doing certain things, wide receivers, I have those guys working releases, light stuff, catching footballs, I think is huge. We try to catch at least 100 footballs every single practice. But yeah, that's mainly what we'll do. And then during that time, we'll grab the JV guys and say, hey, here's what we went over formation wise, especially the immediate backups, the 2 deep that kind of have to play JV, but if something goes catastrophically wrong on a varsity level, they have to go in, which we've had happen this past year and years in the past. So, I know they're beat up a little bit coming back from that JV game. But Tuesday is when we usually grab their ear when they have a fresh mind, because if those guys just played, they're tired, they're beat up, and then you're trying to pound more information in their head, it's probably going in one ear and out the other. So we found before practice to grab those guys and really give them the information needed to thrive in that practice that's coming up.
All right. We've got just 2 more or 3 more questions here. These will be our last 3 for tonight.
Cool.
And then if you do need to reach out to Chris, you can hit him at contact@vIQtory.com, right?
Victory Sports. Yeah. VictorySports.com. Yeah. Or on Twitter @ChrisVictory, one of the 2. I'll get back to you regardless. I monitor everything. So it's not like I have someone else that's monitoring something.
Perfect. Okay. Justin wants to know, how can he, as a position coach, use data from Hudl to determine what drills and areas to focus on with his position group?
Great question. Okay, so what I look at throughout. Sorry, repeat the question one more time. I want to make sure I'm going in the right direction with this.
Yep. So he wants to know how he can use the data from Hudl to
Yep.
determine what drills and areas to focus for his position group.
Okay, good. So one thing we do chart, and I don't have it in here, but I do chart every single game missed tackles. And then I will look at the angle of pursuit into like what's the entry level at where those guys are getting to make a tackle, right? So for instance, we had a tough time when we were spilling counter this year where our linebacker, like we'd get the spill, we'd rock that first guy, clog up the second guy. They'd end up trying to log it and bounce it. And our linebackers were just coming way too far over the top. We were getting cut back on and getting chunked out for about 10 to 15 yards. So I would look at that data in a sense of like, where are we not succeeding? And in that, you know, for that instance, we worked a spill drill with the defensive ends that week. Hey, we need to work on the angle of getting downhill and not creating that cutback lane to get cut back on the backside. So as far as looking at data, I would look at impact plays, like where are you getting beat the most? Are you getting, you know, do you have a corner that is just poor with his footwork and he's getting stemmed up because he's not weaving the stem and getting beat up over the top? Do you have a linebacker who just refuses to spot drop to where he needs to? Okay, well then you need to work as a group what they're doing there. I would be as picky as possible. You know, don't look at it and be like, that will be okay. Like, or like don't ever do that. Like what we like to do is we like to put position wise, what do we stink at? Right. And we meet as a coaching staff, like every coach knows, hey, we're not good at this right now. Well, this week we need to be able to create drills if we need to, or go to the drill bank and figure out how we can adjust it from there. So that's how I would look at it, is like where you getting gashed, where you're getting beat over the top, and how you can patch it up. And one other thing too, I want to add, and this might help some defensive coaches too, is like whenever I'm looking at, like, this is my defensive philosophy, is like, if they run a play, and I'll stick with just runs for now. If they run the football and we miss a tackle, it's a player problem. If they run the football and we're getting ripped, it's a scheme problem. That's a me problem. Okay. And that's how I, like, in my mind, that's what I'm looking at when I'm on the sideline, is like, okay, I see two pulling guards. I know counter, we're supposed to spill this thing. Okay. We spilled it, but they're still ripping us because we missed the tackle. And the guy in the booth will help us out. Hey, so-and-so missed the tackle on that. Scheme wise, we're fine. Right. Because I think a lot of coaches will just panic. Hey, we got ripped for 10 yards. We got to blitz someone off the edge there. And then you create whole new problems for yourself. So, you know, the chart that always goes in my head is like, did we miss a tackle? Okay. Player problem. Are we getting ripped because we're not doing something schematically? Me problem. I got to patch it up. I got to fix it. So, you know, I hope that helps, because that's, especially as a young coordinator, when I took over at age 26, 25, like I was just like, panic. We're getting ripped. Let's just try to blitz the house. And then you create more problems for yourself.
No, that's a great way to look at it.
Yeah.
Okay. Last one here.
Yeah.
Greg said, just as you were starting your Excel info, he had to go outside with his dog. So
okay,
we could go over it again.
Yeah. I'll run through it real quick, but essentially this is our call sheet that we have on the sideline. So I'll change these columns every game. So if it's a personnel switch, there was one team that liked to bring in a new quarterback. There was another team that liked to bring in a new slot receiver. Like, offensive coaches are wired to do certain things that make sense in their head. So sometimes they'll just do it just to think that, how can I get the big play out of it? And then as a defense coordinator, we're going to be able to take advantage of that. So these columns up here will change. These three mainly. These fourth are just like long distance, 3rd and 8, 3rd and 7. Like, what do I like? This is like my fun category here. So I like to create things that kids like, where, you know, if we're doing simulated pressures, bringing pressures off the edge, fun things, right? I always tell our guys, let's get the 3rd and long. Let's have some fun. And you know, they've really bought into that concept of like, let's be perfect on 1st and 2nd so we can have some fun on 3rd. Notes section here. Again, I have a pen on me at all times. So like, I actually jot down notes, but will be notes throughout our base personnel calls. And then I'll add anything pregame that we want to, you know, okay, I want to do early down rotation and stunts. That way, because they're a heavy RPO team or a heavy pass play on 1st downs, I want to confuse the quarterback. So that'd be an instance for notes. Again, here, down distance, however you want to chart this up. I just threw in dummy information here, but you can chart it first and 10, 2nd and 10. What are they doing on these downs? If there's any significant data, and I can't remember who asked the question before, but like, if it's only one play, is that significant data? No. The only thing I'm going to put on this chart is significant data. And 60%, 60 to 70% is like flirting with that line. But you see here, like fourth and medium, 100% pass. Okay, that's in our head. We can jot that down as a tendency. So this is going to be our tendency box here. And then any notes that we want to add, we'll put that down here. And then of course, these are just like my cookbook of just fronts, coverages, blitzes. Obviously, I deleted all of our actual calls here, but like this is where I put all my coverages. This is where I put all my blitzes, all my stunts that I'm going into the game with. So if we determine that this protection, 51, whatever it is, they only run one protection. I like, and this is what I do. I have a blitz catalog of all the blitzes I like. And this is something for you defensive coaches that, to blitz smarter essentially is I have a catalog of blitzes. I'll look at what they're running offensively from a line perspective wise. And then I'm going to take 3 to 4 blitzes a week, work on those blitzes to be as effective as possible. That way I'm not practicing 9 different blitzes throughout the week and we're only going to run 2 of them. I'm wasting time, right? Again, think about time and efficiency. I'm looking at their protection. I'm seeing that they're a half slide team. What blitzes do we have to beat half slide? These 3 to 4, perfect. Let's run it. Let's go with it. So that's kind of how I think about the blitzing, the stunts, coverages, fronts, and so on and so forth when I'm game planning. So again, it took me years to figure that out. So I hope that little nugget helps somebody.
No, that's fantastic. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Chris, for joining us tonight. This was great.
Yeah.
Knowledge and everything. I know there's going to be a lot of coaches that are going to get a lot out of this. So hopefully they can take it and use it for their own team. Before everybody goes, thank you all for joining us tonight. I also want to make sure that we know about all our tutorials at hudl.com/support. That's our support homepage. And you should be able to find any tutorials on New Hudl, get an understanding there. You can also sign up for an expert chat. You pick the day and time. One of our support reps will give you a call, walk through everything. You can set that up as a Zoom call as well, so we can go through your account. You can have all your staff on there, anything like that. We want to make sure that you all are as comfortable as possible with that. Finally, we will have an offensive session to this webinar series on March 7th at 7 p.m. Make sure you sign up for that. We're going to do an offensive session with Coach
Yashinsky.
Yashinsky from out of Wisconsin.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be great. He's helped us out before. He's done one of these sessions in the past, so I think we can get a lot out of that one. Finally, this recording will be available. It should be available on Friday. You'll get an email with this recording. So if you do want to go back and watch it again, we'd love that. And then you can hit Chris up at contact@vIQtorysports.com or on his Twitter.
Yeah, just at Chris Victory. Yeah. Again, please reach out if you do have any questions too. I'm happy to answer them. I know I talk a million miles an hour, so I want to make sure that everyone at least got their worth out of here. But I hope you make the transition over to New Hudl because there's so much you can do with it compared to Classic. So if you haven't already yet, hopefully this convinced you to make that transition over.